Hello everybody and welcome to Workshop Studios. Today's project is a Sears inflator compressor. And so what the problem here is that even though it works, it actually does pump air. It only goes to about 15 psi. So it's not really doing very much in terms of blowing up tires. So we're going to take it apart and see if we can figure out what's wrong with it. So join us. First, we'll do a little cleanup just so we can see things better. All right, that's a little better. So now we're going to take it apart as best we can. There's 4 screws here. That looks like that's mostly what's holding it together. So we'll take those out. Okay, it's pretty simple. So this comes off, and there's this spot here that I haven't quite figured out what this is going to, but it hooks onto this nozzle. Oh, I see what that does. That goes over to the pressure gauge. So this registers the pressure, and so that needs to be a good seal there. We'll have to check that out. But inside here, this is how clever this is. So this is the outlet port to go off to your tire or whatnot. And so I just took this off of here like this. And down in here we have this item. Let me zoom in a little bit here. Come down like that. Might be easier for you to see. And it's very simple. This is a little piston. And what we're going to do is lift off what the piston's inside of. This is sort of the cylinder of the piston, if you want to look at it that way. We'll come back to that one. But here's the piston. I'll take that out of there. Oop. And that comes out like that. There's the little piston. And down inside there is the motor and a little cam that goes around and around. You see it going round and round? So I don't think I need to do any work on this because the electric motor seems to be working. So I'm going to just concentrate on the seals in these. So what happens is that this piston goes up and down in here. Like, let me get this out of the way so you can see it. So it goes up and down. Okay. And on the top here, there's a little flapper valve right here. Let's get this in focus. I don't know if you can see this, but there's a little flapper valve. I don't want to bend it too much, but right there where I'm putting my thumb. Yeah, it's not staying in focus very well. So this little flapper valve right here goes up and down. So when the piston goes up, it pushes air out of this, and that air goes up through the top here, through this channel. I get in focus there. And it goes both out to the tire and off to the pressure gauge. So, and then when the piston comes back down, it's sucking down. And I'm assuming that it pulls this flapper valve down, and then when it does it again, it pushes it back up. So somehow it needs to get air in there. I haven't figured that out yet. So when it's coming up, it's pressurizing air into the system. When it comes back down, it's got to have a little vent somehow to let air in. And, well, I'll look at that. All right, well, it took a little persuading, but there are some screws on the side here. 1, 2, and 3. And they allow you to take the case apart. Let me back up a little. All right, so got those off of there. And there we go. There's inside. Let's take a closer look. It's kind of wet because I've been cleaning it off. So, just a motor, really, for the most part. There's the switch over here. Come down like that. So this is the on-off switch that goes into the motor. There's the pressure gauge right there. It just sits in there. So pretty simple, but I think I'd like to get the motor, see if I can oil that up a little bit. So let me work on that. So yeah, I got the motor out of here. Motor just sits in there like that. So here's the motor out. But I wanted to show you this. I wondered what was going on. I saw what looked like mud on the outside of the thing. And this is where the wasps, mud daubers, or whatever you want to call them, had gotten into the thing and put down their mud nests. You can see I'm breaking it up with a screwdriver there. So, boy, they can get into anything, can't they? So I'll get that cleaned up, and then I'll work on the motor. All right, well, here's the motor. I cleaned it off a bit. It wasn't too bad, but so it's a little more presentable. Here's that shaft I was showing you earlier that goes up and down like that. And the piston for to pressurize things goes on here. And just like a piston on a crankshaft, goes up and down. Oops. Goes up and down like that. Up and down. So what I want to do is take this motor just apart enough to put a little bit of oil on the bearings. I could put it right here, and that would probably do it, because that is the shaft. I'll show you here. You can see it moving there. And there's a transmission, if you want to call it that, or a gearing system to gear this down. So this is not going full speed of the motor, which is why the motor shaft runs through this way, and then this one's offset down here. So there's a set of gears in here, so probably be a good idea to check those out, and maybe a little bit of grease on them. Okay. All right, so 3 screws on the back here. 1, 2, 3. Those are loosened up. Let's see what it looks like inside. Very gently. There we go. Oops. A washer. Probably a thrust washer of some sort. That goes on there. So here's our gearing system over here. I don't want to take that apart just yet. Let's take a quick look at the motor. The motor looks good. Feels like it's spinning nicely. Take it out of there. Might be a little bit of a challenge to get that back together because I just pulled the brushes off of it, but we want to take a look anyway. So there's some scoring on this. We'll clean this surface up with some very light emery cloth, and then we'll just check these. It feels a little sticky, so we might clean that up, and we'll keep going on this. All right, so here's the armature all cleaned up. Just used some 1000 grit emery cloth. Just go round and round. Now the trick is to get it back in there, and you can see the brushes are these things sticking out down here, right here, and they're on springs, so you can push them in. So I'm going to be working on that, trying to get it all back together here. All right, so I got the motor back together. Took a little bit of effort to get those brushes out of the way so I could slip the motor back in, but that's all done. So let's look at the gearbox, and I've already opened it up and kind of redistributed the grease a bit. It was there we go. But this is the camshaft part of it, and it goes around and round like that. And I've already squashed the grease down in there, and what I'm going to do is put a whole lot more in here, just kind of fill this whole thing up so that it really is sort of cushioned with grease. So let me go ahead and do that. And I'll bring you back as we get that all sorted out. Lovely good stuff, just kind of gushing it in there. Okay. By the way, I meant to show you this. The motor has a gear on the teeth here. That's a gear right there, and that it goes in that little slot there, and then up against the cam that goes around and around. Oops, the cam that goes around and around like that. So that's how that works. Forgot to show you that. All right, so that housing is stuffed full of grease, and as I said, this just slips in there. and engages the teeth on that shaft. So now it's actually engaged and will make the motor spin, hopefully. Come on. I'm pretty sure the motor spins. Let's make sure the motor spins. Ah, it does. I just pulled it out and lost the things, so let me stop and do that. Okay, so get the motor back together and all the gearbox on, and we've put the piston back in, and we're just trying to make sure that we've got this the right way. It has kind of got a high and a low spot, so I just need to make sure that we've got that right. It's I don't know if I can explain this correctly, but this has a slope on it, and so does this. So just need to make sure that this piece and that piece marry up. So let me do that real quick. So yeah, those two match up. Now it's time to put this in here. And it just goes back on like that. Remember, that's sliding into that pin for this. Make sure this all goes down. There we go. I hope that's right. Okay, and now it's time to put these screws back in and the other screws. It's leaking around here, and that's the inlet to the pressure valve here. So the pump is fine. It seems to be going just fine. And the issue is that when I took this apart and cleaned it out, there was some stuff that came out of this hole here. That's the pipe that hooks onto that spot. Sorry, I keep the light off there. And it turns out that there was probably some sort of a seal down there that had just kind of disintegrated over time. And it's important to remember that this, you can see on here, there's a warning, hot. So this surface actually gets pretty darn hot. And so anything associated with it, like seals around here, would get super hot as well. So I can see where over time that might get kind of destroyed. So what I've done is right now I've pushed two. I'm looking in here now. I've pushed two faucet washers down in there, and that brings the surface that mating surface, if you might back up closer to it. And then I'm going to put one more washer in there. It's actually an O-ring. And then when this goes together, it pushes that down. So the act of putting this together actually puts the pressure on that. So let's try that and see how that works. So I'm trying to push it straight down in so that it's kind of angling it so that it's flat when the spigot pushes on it. All right, so there we go. That's pretty flat. Now the other thing I'm going to do is use this O-ring, which turns out it's a good size too. And so it will fit down in there like that and give a good seal as well. So I'm hoping between the two of these that will be an excellent seal. So let's try and put that on there. So now remember, this just pushes on. Back up a little bit here. This just pushes on there like that. And yes, it fits. Okay, good. So my guess is that's going to be a tight enough fit so that it doesn't leak right there. And that's where I could hear the leak before. All right, so let's go ahead and button that up, and I'll show you what it does. Okay, so I've got it all put together. I've got a tire over here I'm hooking it up to that I can take it up to 30 psi. So we'll put this on there, and you'll see the gauge registers a little bit on there. Now this is noisy, so I'm not going to make you listen to it, but watch the gauge right here. Put that down there so you can see a little better. Sorry. There we go. All right, let's see how this does. Perfect. Look at that. Oh yeah, that's doing it. There might be a little bit of a leak here now at this point, but it's certainly enough to hold the pressure here for blowing up tires. So I don't want to leave this on there for very long because it might leak out here, but that worked great. So I would call that a win. Looks like we got it fixed. Thanks for watching, everybody, and bringing old junk back to life. The Sears inflator compressor, and it seems to be doing well. So be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next video. Bye!